All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. It is Wednesday, April 19th of 2023 here. The MLB main slate has already gotten going today. Looks like we have a 3-game NBA playoff slate as well as a 4-game NHL playoff slate as well. And then we also have, some good alternate slates for DK for the rest of the day here. But for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. It's a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions that come in live in the YouTube chat or in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord, there's a link in the description below to get joined up. Highly recommend it. As always, been a little sick all week here. If you guys have been tuning in to the show, still trying to get over it. The throat is feeling a lot better, a little bit easier to talk, but still pretty congested. So going to be taking my time on the show. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through this sickness. But that being said, have a couple housekeeping things to touch on, a couple questions that came in yesterday. Somebody asked why we don't have Sims for the Zurich Classic this week, and I went back to the team and I found out that it is indeed like one of the weird format weeks. It's team based, and the rounds alternate with I was told foursomes and four ball. So just kind of like a weird format overall, not something that we are set up to support at the moment, unfortunately. But when we return, hopefully back to regular format, I would imagine next week we will have golf sims once again. And then there was one other question from Mustafa asking about series long DFS, which is available over on DraftKings apparently. I asked the team about it, and the response I got is that we haven't done any full fledged like contest sims or looked into it really at all. It's a big project. It's something that we want to do in the future, but unfortunately, it's not something that we have a lot of data on. We have so that basically means like we don't have a lot of great advice about how to tackle it. I will say that I haven't seen too much content on it across the industry. I could be out of touch there, but that kind of leads me to say like play the best plays is probably going to be one of your best options here. I think that you could do something interesting where like obviously the series that are going on are already done, but once you figure out who moves on to the next round and they open up their next set of contests for series long, you could go back into the series that played and then do like an average projection of all available players across the series and then basically create like your own series projection rankings based on like what you saw previously. I mean, that's not going to take into account, matchups and contextual projections, but it could give you like some type of series long starting point, and then you just build your lineups based on projected score essentially from what you saw in the previous series. But that's probably my best advice. We don't have a lot of data on it, so I'm not going to be able to give anything that we like fully stand behind and have like back tested and know what works. All right. Those were our two housekeeping items from yesterday. And lastly, we are going to jump into our questions for today. We have one question that came in from support, and then it looks like we have like quite a few questions that came in the Discord. So appreciate everybody dropping questions in there and letting them sit until the show starts. But gonna hit this first one from support, and then we will jump over. So this first question says, I've been playing with the sliders and stacking tools, but notice it's spitting out high owned stacks. Is there a way I can view lower owned stacks with the same upside? Okay, so good question here. So I'm going to build lineups as if we're building for this 5-game afternoon slate that is going to be starting in about an hour or so here. So let me just get some lineups going here, and then we can talk about this. But as far as the sliders, so we removed the ownership fade slider that was previously here. I don't think you're going to get a lot out of being able to like fade high owned stacks in your build settings by adjusting sliders or anything like that. It's really all going to come in the post build. So let's just build these lineups and then we will talk about it a little bit here. So our lineups are building. I'm just getting a drink of water really quickly here for our audio listeners. Don't want you to think that we have went MIA, but just letting these lineups run. So it looks like our 500 lineups are finishing up now. And once these lineups load, we'll get into the post build here. So now I'm in the post build. So depending on what slider settings you picked, is going to determine what Saber score method you are automatically using here. So this is like a 5-game small slate, and we had it set to 10 to 50K entrance. There is an eye icon next to the Saber score. You can click that, and then you can see what the Saber score formula is using, and then what is ultimately going to determine your like lower owned stacks is this weight of your average adjusted ownership here. So at this level, it is a negative 0.8 weight here. You could look at what the options are for 50K. So that'll be like a higher weight on this average adjusted ownership. So if you're looking to get like off the chalk onto lower owned stacks, what I would do, like say you're playing a single entry, you know, maybe it's like 100 to 1K, but you're getting really chalky lineups. You don't want to play that. I would just use a different Saber score sorting metric that is going to value lower owned, just put more weight on lower owned players. So essentially you'll get lower owned stacks by doing that. And then you could even look at, you know, these large slate ones and then see what the weights are for those. So just go into your Saber scores, try and find the Saber score with the highest multiplier for your average adjusted ownership. That will be the easiest way to see lower owned stacks. And then we will get a timestamp recording of this answer over to you back via support. All right, jumping over to the Discord here. And first question came in yesterday from K Polo. Question says, for NBA, is it better to select rank or unique rank for fill method when importing lineups? Okay, good question here. So I don't have a CSV for this slate here. I'll actually just show this on my OwnersBox main slate that I played about an hour ago and then show you guys the differences here as to what you can do for this. So I'm going to jump over to OwnersBox and going to go over to the main slate that locked a little bit ago. So these are my these are going to be my lineups that I built over on OwnersBox for today's slate. So let's say that I have so I had 3 contests that I played, right? I played the 150 max, I played the flagship, and then this $3 I think it's like a $5 3 max here. So your options under fill method are rank, unique random, and exact. So what rank is going to do? So let's say that, you know, I want to fill these 2 contests here, the 12 max and the 3 max. If I use unique rank, what will happen is that all 12 lineups will go into this 12 max here, and then I will put the first 3 lineups into this second contest here, this 3 max. So it'll go 1 through 12, go into this first contest, and then 1, 2, 3 go into this next contest. Let's say I had a single entry here. In this third contest here, this imaginary one that I'm talking about would get my number 1 lineup. And then if I had another single entry, it would get my number 1 lineup again. So what rank is going to do is it is going to treat every contest as an individual contest and then just use that lineup file and then start from the top every single time. let's say that we want to use one of the unique fill methods. So then for this example, I'm going to say that maybe I built a 150 set here. And if I use unique rank, what will happen is that all 150 lineups will go into this 150 max. And then I will start over at the top. And then 1 through 12 will go into my next contest. But after that, it will not start over again. It will just continue on. So then lineups 13, 14, 15 from my 150 max will go into the next contest. And then say, I had another contest. Lineup 16 will go into that one. Lineup 17. So it will use all 150 lineups in descending order before reverting back to using lineup number 1 again. So this will use all 150 lineups as they are available until it reuses lineup 1. If you use unique random, instead of lineups 1 through 12 being used here, it can use any of the 150 lineups that were generated, but it can't reuse them until it runs out of lineups. So if I were to use unique random, basically it would fill 12 here, and then it would fill 3, but it would not reuse any of the 12 that were already used. It would still continue to use unique lineups until it runs out of available spots. So that is how these 3 fill methods work. And then if you use exact, it will identify how many lineups you built and then only fill contests that have that same matching number of entries. So if you did exact, it would skip the 12 and the 3 and then only put lineups into the 150 max here. So that is what the fill methods are doing. All right, going to hop back over to our other SaberSim account where we do office hours, just because don't want it to mess up with any stuff that I have going on for today. So we are back. So I'm going to hit this next question. See some questions coming in the YouTube chat. We will get to all the questions before the end of the show, everybody. All right. Casey had a question, said, would it be possible for you to demonstrate how you would set a rule for NBA that will only select players with a 20-plus minute projection? Thank you and keep up the great work. Yep, happy to demo this for you here. All right, so if we go over to NBA, you can do this 2 ways. Frankly, I would probably not do this with a rule. I would just do this with a filter here. So what I would do is I would do a filter, and then I would say show players with minutes greater than 19. So, that way it shows them if they have 20 minutes. And then what this is going to do is it's going to remove all players. So it removes 60 players where their minutes didn't match that. So to check, you can just sort descending by minutes here. You can scroll down, and then you can see where that cutoff is here. So right now, I saw that Giannis was doubtful, so we have him at like a half projection. If he gets rolled in, this will ultimately get bumped up. But you can see who you are disregarding. So this removes them from your player pool entirely. I think this is like the safer route to go. If you wanted to do it as a rule where this is like, recurring. So the good thing about rules is that they carry over slate to slate. If it's a filter, what you can do is you can name this filter, and then we could just say minutes greater than 20 here, and then you could save it. And then so this will now be a saved filter where you could come in and just load it. But so that's one way to do it as a filter. Other way would be a group rule. And then I would say group automatic. And then I would say use exactly 0. Well, actually, I don't know if I can do that. So, okay, so you technically can't do it this way. So I would just do it as a filter, and then you'll be good to go. But filter is the way to go on that one. All right. J. Sams Jr. has a question. Said, what is a good way to calculate total bases for a batter? I use the Sims for my prop betting. Okay. So I can't answer this question without plugging our prop plan. So if you are on the SaberSim Pro plan, you have this add-on option. It says NBA props. This is all props now. We have moved into MLB props this week. We have, strikeout props, run props, hit props, total basis props. So we have a lot of props available. We had a really good NBA season. So if you're interested in props, let us do all the hard work. Let us figure out, win percentages and optimal bet sizes and unit recommendations. And then we're sending those out every day in the morning to try and get the best lines. So take advantage of that. If, that is in the bankroll for you. We're up like 40 units on the NBA season after only releasing it in January. But if you wanted to try and calculate total bases here in the app, good question. So my guess, actually, I don't know. So J. Sams Jr., let me figure it out. I don't want to say that you would just add up all of these options here. But it's possible. So let me figure it out what the best way to do that for you is. But again, take advantage of the prop plan. We do all of this work for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. But let me circle back on that one. So make a note for myself, J. Sams Jr. question, and then Discord. All right, and I might just start a thread and respond to you if I get that answer after the show. All right. T-Bergs has a lengthy question, which I'm happy to work through here and get an answer out for. So this one says, is there any way to exercise more control over stacking rules created in the rules tab pre-build? For example, let's say I want all my lineups to have minimum 2 stack as a secondary stack, and I'm okay with either 4 or 5 stacks as the primary. Pretty straightforward. I set one rule for the primary, one rule for the secondary, but it gets complicated if I want to only use at least a 3 stack as the secondary infielder, the primary, or I'm sorry. So it says use at least a 3 stack as the secondary if the primary is a 4 stack for any given lineup, meaning I want to only see 4 3s, 4 4s, 5 2s, 5 3 construction. But if I set the secondary stack at 3, then that eliminates all 5 2 constructions. Since the second stack has to be at least 3, is there any way to go about accomplishing what I'm describing pre-build? I basically want to be able to set rules that allow only 4 3s, 4 4s, 5 2s, 5 3s in my pool for the sake of the example. And then added, I'm aware I can filter stacks post-build, but don't like doing it there necessarily because I'm eliminating possible viable lineups from the pool I'm trying to accomplish it pre-build. Okay, so good question here. The simple answer is that, you're doing it the right way. So you should have one rule as your primary stack that says at least 4 here, at least 4. I think basic is fine. You have advanced options where if you care about positions as far as like first base, second base, third base, shortstop, outfielder, etc., or pitcher options along with your stack. But I think basic is fine. So I would just set one rule, like you said, for basic, and then I would set a second rule for your secondary where it says at least 2. So then this will make sure you get at least a 4-2 in every lineup. And then you're basically just going to have to handle this in the post build here. So if I were to come in here, make mine 2 changes, we can just see what it looks like. But you should basically get 4-2 or better. So 4 3s, 4 4s, 5 2s, 5 3s should be all your constructions. I think that these 2 rules in combination should give you enough options to be able to get there. And then I saw that you said, you could build 1,500 lineups. I'm only building 500 here. And, from those 2 rules, you get 5 2s, 5 3s. The only ones you wouldn't want to see are these 4 2 2s and these 4 2s. So you do get rid of some lineups here. But I think that, this is going to get you close enough to what you want. I would say that just as a disclaimer, if your stack types If you were to come in here and start unchecking stack types or only checking certain stack types, it doesn't work as good as the rules do. So the rules will work much better. The way this stack types work are different than the way the rules work. It's something that we want to work on in the future to make it a little closer together, to work a little more efficiently here. But I would just be careful using stack types. I think rules are going to be your best friend. But unfortunately, I think that the way you're doing it now is the closest that it's going to be to working properly. I still think that you're left with plenty of lineup options here in the post build. One thing that I would probably suggest is that once you get to the post build, go to your stack types, go to the stack types you don't want to see, use the plus icon, go to the pool, and then just bulk trash these. And then you can just quickly get rid of all these lineups that you don't want to see. So then I'm just going to bulk trash the 4-2s and the 4-2-2s from the pool. And then now when I go back here to my lineups, I have an effective pool of only the stacks that I want to see. So that was a really easy way of quickly trashing 178 lineups that you don't want to play. All right. Next question here from Kevlar. This looks like a feature request. Happy to walk through it, though. Question says, is it possible to have a column added to MLB slates that shows handedness for pitchers and batters? Would be helpful to be able to quickly sort / eliminate players you don't want in lineups. Thanks. Okay, so I'm happy to take this back as a feature request and let the team know that you are asking for that. So Kevlar 87 feature request, Discord, I will get that logged and get that back to the team. All right. We have a future traveler here. The year is 2090. So somebody from the future going to be binking all the slates here. Asked, what's the best method to use SaberSim to select a lightning lineup on OwnersBox? And is it possible to build out a specific tool within SaberSim to generate optimal lineups to select versus the OwnersBox house projections besides using the sims for selecting an entry? Do you have any other tips and tricks to maximize wins on that gameplay style? Thanks. Okay, so I will also take this back as a feature request. Year 2090 Discord for supporting lightning lineups. So I've dabbled with this a little bit myself. I will give you a couple tips that I try to follow when I do this. So usually it's like 8. If you guys are not familiar with the lightning option over on OwnersBox, it's basically they give you a 3-player lineup and they give you 8 options, and then you have to, or they give you different range of options depending on what payout you want. But then you get like 8 lineups to choose from. You need to pick the lineup that is going to score the most points. And then if you pick that lineup that's going to score the most points, you get a payout on like a multiplier scale. So like might be $5 to win $25 if you pick the highest scoring lineup from this set of lineups. So first thing that I'm looking for when I do that is I'm looking for which lineups are correlated. So from like the 8 set of lineups that you get, only a few of them will have a team stack on them. So automatically I'm saying, okay, what lineup has at least 2 players from the same team? And then I'm narrowing that down. So I might go from like 8 lineups to 2 or 3 lineups. And then from those 2 or 3 lineups, now it's kind of easier to do like to go into the app and like cross check. So then from there you can say, okay, what teams are being stacked, what are the run totals for those teams, what are the projections for those players. So let's say that you get 2 lineups that are correlated. One has a San Diego stack, one has a Mets stack. I might just go with the Mets stack because the Mets have a higher run total here. Another thing is that they're the away team, so they're guaranteed all 27 outs. It's not so much a big deal with San Diego being like a dog here, but if San Diego was like the favorite by a run, they might lose some at bats if they're winning the game. So just like some small things to take advantage of, but just remember that correlation and stacking are always important in baseball, regardless of the format that you are playing. So for the lightning lineups, still find correlation, still take advantage of it is my best advice. All right, that is all the questions in the office hours channel. Jumping over to the YouTube chat here. Shane had a question, said any recommended key points of research for MLB? So specifically, no. I would say that, one thing that I do is I run research builds. So, I will do this call it like a modified correlation build where I'll decrease correlation by like half and then see what stacks are still popping up with correlation reduced. So, not no correlation, but not full correlation. So with some correlation, what stacks are still popping. I'll even do a 0-9 build for pitchers and see what pitchers are popping. That is really the extent of my research that I'm doing, aside from checking weather. The Roto Grinders weather dashboard run by Kevin Roth is a great research tool. I'm not really double counting any weather, but I think it's important to know where like the risks are, and especially like on like a pitcher basis. I think we had a slate a couple of days ago where like the San Francisco Detroit game got postponed, and they had initially just like delayed it, then they delayed it, and then they ultimately ended up postponing it. And then the Baltimore Chicago game was like delayed, but then that one ultimately ended up playing. So just be aware of like those weather scenarios. Can be a little tricky there. But as far as research, I'm really not doing anything beyond that. Banks Larry said, "What's your top stack today?" So for the main slate today, I like to do a little different stuff. So if you guys saw, I had like a couple different builds ran when I was showing you guys my owner's box lineups for today. In my 150 max, I just really trust the builder, set my min uniques, and look at stack types, kind of set it and forget it. In the flagship where it's like only 12 lineups, I like to get a little more leverage. First place is a little more money in those. So for my 150 max, I was like all over the chalk with St. Louis and Pittsburgh. But then in my second build, I had targeted more of, I took some leverage spots on Cleveland, on Philly, I think on the Mets, and on Atlanta. So we'll see how those work out. Tried to get a little different. We will see what ends up happening. I saw that St. Louis was crushing early in the game. Actually, I saw that it was 3-2. So even Arizona had a home run here. I thought Arizona was an interesting play as well here. So it should be an interesting slate. Gotta love some day baseball slates. All right, Franklin said, "Hey, Andrew, is there a way to stack a pitcher with at least one batter on the same team? Thanks." Yes, so there is a way to do that now with the advanced stacking rules here. So what I would do is go to stack, go to advanced, and then say use at least one pitcher, and then I would say this uses greater than or equal to, where it shows catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, outfielder, and do a stack roll that looks like this. So stack advance, pitcher equals 1. This like multi-position line is greater than or equal to 1, and then just save that rule. And then now you will get a pitcher with at least one batter from the same team with the option of having more. So I think giving the builder that flexibility, that option, is ultimately a good thing. All right, Noah has a question. "Hey there, wondering if SaberSim has the ability to do tiers for NBA on DraftKings." So I will take that back as a feature request as well, tier support. And happy to let the team know that people are asking for it. And then second question, does it take into account current injury designations? So for NBA, yes, we do have like NBA injury designations. These are updated throughout the day as players become probable, as players get ruled out, as players are questionable, doubtful, whatever it may be. So we are aware of current injury designations. And then once these lineups are confirmed, the teams will get a little green check mark, and then the statuses will move to a green check as well, confirming that they are in the starting lineup. Neil said, "Can't you just uncheck the stack types you don't want in step 1?" So this is a question from earlier. You can, Neil, but like I talked about, it just works a little differently here. It doesn't work exactly like the rules, so it could just be a little trickier. It might not work 100% of the time is kind of my point. So something that we want to look into on our side. It's a technical issue. All right. Question here. Noah said, "Does SaberSim show if two stacks within one game is more optimal than 2 stacks over multiple games, or is that just whatever the top lineups that get popped out? And then second question, does SaberSim show? It's actually the same question. Okay, so yeah, so let's go over to MLB. We'll talk about this a little bit here. So I wouldn't say that like, well, optimal is an interesting word, I guess, is like the right, an interesting question here. So basically what you're going to see, and this is the build that I'll go back to this other build. We ran that build with our rule on here. But what you're going to see, if you go over to stack types, if you sort by pool, you're going to see the stack types that show up most often. So what SaberSim is saying is like, hey, for this contest type that we chose, this 20 max, this GPP, this 10 to 50K entrance, we think that, 5-2s are probably going to be, 5-2s show up the most. So what I would conclude is that, hey, 5-2s are generally a good stack for this contest type. But interestingly enough, they're not our top exposure of these 5-3s are. So what SaberSim is saying, like, hey, 5-2s are correlated, but 5-3s are probably are even more correlated because you're adding that third player to that secondary stack, and it actually likes that more from an EV perspective. So although this 5-2 shows up more often in the pool, the 5-3s show up more often at the top of the pool. So when SaberScore went in and graded these, it pushed more 5-3s to the very top of the pool. So these very highly stacked lineups are going to be your best friend in this contest type. I think you can let the stack types kind of give you some information as to what type of stacks you want to play on any given slate size, contest size, etc. Larry said, I meant on the late slate stack. Not sure, man. Run a research build and get some thoughts. But like the way I would figure that out, I would run a research build. I would come in here, I would look at team stacks, and then I just like to scroll through these stack types. Let's look at our 5 stacks. I like to look at the pool. Mets look great as a 5 stack. And then I would scroll through here, see what all of our stacks are. I don't just go straight to all because, you can say like, oh, yeah, Pittsburgh looks pretty good, right? But maybe Pittsburgh is like all your 2 stacks, right? And then you're like, okay, Pittsburgh looks good, yeah, but they're not popping as much as the Mets, right? So Mets look great. Might be a go Mets day. I'm a Dodger fan myself, a little biased, but it is okay for the Dodgers to lose if we win some GPPs along the way. All right, everybody. Those were all the questions that came in via support, Discord, YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. Starting to feel a little bit more like myself as the days go on further in the week. So hopefully I'll be back to full health here pretty soon. Looks like Neil has one last question. Says hopefully this doesn't come off as a magic setting question, but is the general recommendation for mini leagues still the max -1? I've been basically maxing them out as high as I can for MLB. So Neil, this is a fine question. It's really user dependent. Nothing wrong with maxing it out. Nothing wrong with using no mini leagues or leaving mini leagues at 1 here. So I know that Jordan, in a lot of his content that he puts out, he likes to say, max it out, see how high you can go, and then set it 1 back from there, essentially here. So this is pretty cool. We're already at 7 mini leagues. At 8, we run out. So then, you would set it at 7. I would be fine with it at 7. You're only at lineup 238 out of your pool. I do something different. I like to start with about half of my lineup, see if I'm comfortable with the exposures that I'm getting on a stack basis, on a team basis, etc. Here, we're getting a ton of Mets, so I might even bump it up to try and decrease some of the Mets stacks naturally here. Much more comfortable with 55%, but you just kind of got to find the setting that makes you comfortable. People come and ask me, hey, I felt way too spread out. Should I lower my mini leagues? Like, the answer is yes. If you feel too spread out, you should. Or if you feel that you have too much risk to any one team, pitchers, etc., you should increase it more, or handle it by directly affecting min and max exposures. So like you said, there's like no right answer. I've talked to good players who don't use this. I've talked to good players who do use this. So it's really a tool. It is not something that you have to use. I just want to make that specific point clear. So this is the only thing that I think about, whether I'm going too deep into my pool. I really let my pool kind of guide me as to what setting I want to use. But I think at 7, it was perfectly fine. No more than halfway into your pool, or just about half. Noah said, thanks for today. Yeah, man, happy to help. That is what I'm here for. And then last question, does SaberSim do hockey? Would love to see what it does for stacking for hockey. Yes. So we do have hockey here. So if you go over to sports, drop down, you go over to NHL, you will see, the main slate as well as alternate slates, showdowns. We support hockey fully here. And, I think SaberSim, with the simulations that we have with simming, with our, game sims, that we get really good understanding of player range of outcomes, player correlations within teams here. And that ultimately helps us to build strong lineups. So check us out. Hockey Product is good. And then if you have any questions in the Discord, drop a question in the NHL channel. We have a lot of sharp hockey users that use the product, and we'd be happy to chime in and give you a response. But good questions today, everybody. We'll be right back tomorrow. Until then, take care. Good luck in your lineups. I will see you. Bye.